So to get started for today, I thought I would give you an eye-opener, and I have a hypothesis, which is that if you consume coffee and you listen to music, the caffeine will be, absorbed into your body more quickly. So to start, has yet to be tested, but let's all test it together and see how we feel. So the idea of the opening remark is to get us inspired about creative works and how they are around us in every industry possible. But because of the aforementioned reason, we'll start out with music. And so I'm going to have to switch over to YouTube. This never quite works out for me perfectly, but we'll give it a go. Earlier this year, in January, there was an allegation by Tom Petty that Sam Smith infringed Tom Petty's song, "I Won't Back Down." There was ultimately a settlement that was worked out, and as a result of that, Tom Petty will get co-author credits on writing the music for Sam Smith's song, in addition to royalties off of his, multi-bazillion-dollar musical work. And so you can experience what it sounds like. We will go to YouTube. Whoa. That woke you up. Oh, sorry. Let me stream. Okay, so that is Tom Petty, and now that we've hopefully worked out the audio, the volume, this is the allegedly infringing song. Actually, we didn't, did we? It takes a while to get into it, but this is an official video, so that means I'm not infringing, supposedly. And so that was the melodic line, not the lyrics, were what was alleged to be infringed. It's a pretty clear case. And the result was that, frankly, Tom Petty was able to get a cut of those very valuable royalties. Okay, moving on. With more music. And another way that music is a creative work that results in litigation is with music downloading. It is everywhere. I mean, everywhere, all kinds of downloading. So here I've set up on the screen two different downloading cases. One is for Mavis Roy. It was a New Hampshire case. In this case, actually, I represented Mavis Roy. We were able to settle the case for no liability, and we used an expert witness, and we were able to, we think, establish that the RIAA was unable to prove that the music was actually downloaded from her computer. through a number of technical reasons dealing with the computer and internet. That was obviously very successful because we got a $0 settlement, and it covered her entire family. One of the songs is Jigga My Nigga. This is a 50-something-year-old woman. She clearly wouldn't have, I don't think, downloaded that. So the allegation was that it would have been her kids, because it's some sort of rap song, I guess. And we were able to get a dismissal for the whole family. Compare it with Jamie Thomas Rassett, a case in Minnesota. That case started with nearly a $2 million verdict against Jamie. And they eventually got it reduced to $1.5 million and eventually to $54,000. But still, it was a huge difference between those two cases, and in both cases, it was a music downloading allegation. The main difference is she confessed to downloading, and once you download it, it's pretty much going to go the way of infringement. Continuing with music, I won't play for you the Two Live Crew song here, but there's a famous U.S. Supreme Court case dealing with the Pretty Woman song by Roy Orbison. Two Live Crew made a parody of it, and the lyrics are about a hairy woman and walking down the street and so forth. And the U.S. Supreme Court allowed that to go forward. So in those ways, music and the creative works in music infect everyone's lives, and litigation can ensue as a result of copying. Visual art has a lot of copyright cases in it, of many varieties. To start out with two-dimensional visual art, there's a well-known case involving the New Yorker magazine with this cover. This gentleman, the author of this work, alleged that the New Yorker infringed his work, and the determination was that there was no infringement because it was really an idea, and you cannot copy an idea, sort of the idea of using a skyline for a mohawk. So, but as you can see, copyright litigation going all the way, to district court and decision will involve works of visual art as well as covers for magazines. Moving on, it also involves, again, a cover for a magazine, and that, if you can see it, Moscow on the Hudson, was a movie poster. So in this case, the New Yorker magazine alleged that this movie poster infringed the magazine cover, and the holding was that, yes, it did infringe. So as you can see, it's creative works impact business for magazines and movies. As another example, it's common for copyrightable works to have both trademark and copyrightable aspects. One example is Bouchot versus the Baltimore Ravens. In this case, there was a janitor who, at the Baltimore Ravens football stadium, who created a logo for the Baltimore Ravens. I guess they were new. I think it's some football team or something. I don't know. Anyway, and so the janitor came up with this and faxed the drawing to the executive offices for the Baltimore Ravens. Ultimately, the Baltimore Ravens adopted the logo on the far side. And it went to a jury, and the jury did find that the works were substantially similar and that there was copyright infringement. However, the jury only awarded $1 because there were no damages as a result of the copyright infringement. Rather, all the damages were based on the trademark value, or the would-be damages. And because all the value in this mark is inherent to the Baltimore Ravens trademark value as a source, this gentleman did not have any rights to that. So there, infringement, but no damages. And then there's a whole concept of transferring two-dimensional art to three-dimensional art. here's one example, a photograph of these puppies. And Jeff Koons, who's a famous sculptor, created the sculpture on the far side, and it was held to be infringing. So a sculpture can infringe a photograph. This is similar, a photograph to a sculpture. However, the holding here was no infringement. This was the reason basically is that nature is not protectable, and the mother cub is holding her baby, and that happens in nature. So thus it's not protectable. This is another transfer to quasi three-dimensional art. I'm not sure. This is a stained glass window. This was held not to be infringing. This is a photograph of a woman in a pose that's common for hula dancing. And the allegedly infringing work is using the same pose. And so because it's a common pose, it was held not to be infringing. But as you can see, creative works are involving, again, photographers, but also makers of stained glass. And 3D art versus 3D art is fun. This is a pretty famous Ninth Circuit case called Satava versus Lowry. The plaintiff here, Satava, was selling these glass jellyfish sculptures for over $700 each. They were pretty pricey. And this is a common theme with copyright infringement cases. The defendant said, wow, he's selling them for $700. I can make them for $30. I can sell them for $250. I'll sell a lot more volume. He's already developed a market for it. So people who are shopping for his sculpture will then look for mine, and hopefully I can entice them to buy mine. It's very common in the copyright realm to have this happen. And so Satava, who was making a lot of money, sued the defendant to stop them from selling the sculpture. But they failed, actually. The holding was, again, based on nature, because jellyfish look like this. Jellyfish are vertically oriented. If you have a glass-in-glass sculpture, it typically has an exterior feature that's an oblong shape. So the only similarities were really unprotectable elements. The protectable elements were the colors in the dome, and I'm sorry I can't get a better picture from the case, the dome of the jellyfish, and the tendrils and the way the tendrils laid out. And because they weren't the same, there was no infringement. So the cheap knockoff defendant in this case was allowed to proceed forward. If, however, the cheap knockoff defendant had gotten a little bit closer to the plaintiff's work, it would have been a different result. This is, I don't know, kitschy piggy banks. They, too, have copyright infringement lawsuits. And so, again, you've got the popular plaintiff work. You've got sort of the knockoff defendant's work. In this case, infringement was found, even though there are common elements of New York City with the skyline, the bridge, the Statue of Liberty, the sky and clouds and sun. But because copyright is rich in this in terms of the whimsical features with the coloring and just the style of the design, it's not very realistic. Copyright in protectable elements in this were thicker, more substantive, so the defendant's work was found to be infringing in this case. The NFL wins. So, need to say any more. So here you have this trophy that I think if you win some big game or something, you get that trophy. It's got a name. I don't know. Heisman? Is that it? No? Something else? Whatever. Anyway, so you can, for a while, you could buy a trophy from one of those trophy maker companies that looked just like it. And wouldn't that be cool for your little league team or whatever you call little kid football teams? Is it something else? Anyway, so for your team, you could get them all these knockoff trophies that look just like the official big game trophy. And so the NFL sued, and they won. So you can't really do that. This is, I don't know, its own genre. So happy stick figures on T-shirts. All right, so here, you guys have heard of Life is Good? Yeah? They have a trademark in Life is Good, and a lot of their T-shirt line and their clothing, their merchandise. But in this case, there was a stick figure cartoon artist who had all these figures, and it just so happens that Life is Good happened to have similar designs on their shirts. So the peace guy, they got a peace guy. The frisbee throwing guy, Life is Good has a frisbee throwing guy. The birthday guy, Life is Good has a birthday guy. Taking a bath person, Life is Good has a taking a bath person. Playing the drums person, Life is Good has a playing the drums person. Campfire marshmallow person, and archery person. So all of these were similar, somewhat similar marks, but the determination was that the stick figures did not have enough protectable elements to allow a copyright infringement suit to lie. Stock photos are a big industry. Getty Images, actually there was just a deal signed with Bing and Getty Images so that Bing could show some of Getty Images, but it's big business. And this is a case with where stock photos were taken by an ad agency, and allegedly, and the determination was that there was no infringement. Here it wasn't a direct pull-off. It's just that the ad agency used a similar design as to what was in the other work, or a similar idea conveyed. And again, because it's an idea and not the actual expression of the idea, there was no copyright infringement in this case. But stock photos are common copyright cases. More on photos used in advertising is this one. This is a lady using the restroom. and this photograph shows under the stall with a purse next to her shoes. And this one was used for Kate Spade, which is a designer. And the determination was no infringement because the court said it conveyed different attitudes. So, useful articles. There are lots of cases on things like ugly sweaters and wallpaper and textiles and buildings. So, for example, I hope I'm not offending anyone, the sweater case. So this, there's another set of exhibits that goes with this case that I spared you on, which involves squirrels. But this one has leaves, and the determination was that the defendant did infringe. Okay, so again, another sports one. All right, so Detroit Red Wings, hockey. I got that one, hockey. All right, so the Kelman brothers were a couple of really big fans of the Detroit Red Wings, and they created a foam hat, a lot like those cheesehead hats you see. Well, this one is for the Detroit Red Wings. And it says right wing, left wing, wing nut, right? I'm a wing nut. I wear a wing nut hat. They came up with the design. They sold like hotcakes to all the people in the stadium. And then along came Coca-Cola, who designed a T-shirt. Well, their T-shirt designer designed a T-shirt that happened to use a similar design on the T-shirt. They also reproduced it on the inside of the bottle cap. So anyway, this case actually settled on the courthouse steps, so I can't tell you whether it was infringement or not, but I can tell you what I think. I think it was definitely infringement here to go from the hat to the shirt. Textiles. I don't know how well you can see this. This is wallpaper in a Harlequin design. The holding, what it was is the plaintiff's is the bigger square, and the defendant is the smaller square, and they are exact. So there was a finding of infringement. You can't copy someone's wallpaper. This is fabric that you can buy at the fabric store. And this was infringement was found here. So you can get copyright in your fabric. And then lastly, buildings. An architect had this scale model for a building, and then ultimately this building was created. And so the architect who lost the job and was kind of upset about it decided to sue for copyright infringement. I can't tell you how many cases. There are a ton of cases on buildings where the architect that does the first design loses out on the bid and then sues the winning bidder for copyright infringement. And that's exactly what happened here, but he was overreaching because it wasn't close enough. Another, again, this is a combo copyright trademark case. Another useful item is a watch. So Gucci sued Yida Watch Company and won on both copyright infringement as well as trademark infringement for the design of the G around the face of the watch. Video games. Infringement. So that's Tetris. An interesting thing about both trademarks and copyrights, whenever you have creative works, Customs and Border Patrol can come into the picture in terms of importing goods manufactured abroad. So in this case, Ty, the maker of this stuffed animal, was trying to import these manufactured goods, and they were being seized because Aurora had informed Customs and Border Patrol to stop the importation. So Ty went to court and said, please declare there's no infringement so I can get my stuffed panda bears with giant eyeballs into the United States so I can sell them and put them into little kids' bedrooms. And the court said, you know, you're right. We need multiple makers of big-eyed stuffed animals because that's not protectable. So bring them on in. And so Ty won, and there was no infringement. Books and written materials, of course, are creative works. There is no infringement for white pages listings. There's a famous case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court called Feist. So because these are facts which are unprotectable, and the arrangement of the way you portray the facts is typical and customary, it's not protectable. An unauthorized sequel is not infringing. So in this famous case, J.D. Salinger sued Mr. Colting for making a sequel to The Catcher in the Rye and succeeded. So it is copyright infringement, and Salinger did not want a license. Salinger just did not want the sequel to come out at all, so he was able to get the defendant, Colting, to stop. Politics are always fun. One thing that comes up in politics a lot is fair use. Is the work transformed sufficiently to make it a criticism or commentary on the original work? This case was settled, so we don't know. But this is an Associated Press photo, and it was used to create an Obama Hope poster by a man named Shepard Fairey. Associated Press sent a cease and desist letter. Shepard Fairey filed a petition for declaratory relief, and we won't know the court decision because they settled, and Shepard Fairey was allowed to use the work. In another case, there's this guy that was running for Congress named Joe Walsh. It just so happens he has the same name as a guy that's in the band The Eagles. And Joe Walsh had a song called Walk Away, and Joe Walsh, the congressman, changed the lyrics and included it in part of his campaign, the song with different lyrics. And so there was an open letter transfer across the internet, like an open cease and desist letter, an open response, and in the end, they just had to say their piece. So, because you heard Three's Company, another allowed work was a play based on the original TV series Three's Company, which was in the 70s. Do we have time for that? Or do you want me to move on? Huh?
You're good.
I'm good? Okay. So this is the original Three's Company. And let me pull up the theme song so you guys remember, if you're old enough, like me. There you go. Remember that? So, for those of you old enough, that's the... Oh, sorry. Why did that happen? Huh. Oh. Sorry. I guess it went on to the next thing. I told you these never work out for me. But I really wanted to wake you guys up. I'm testing my hypothesis on you. Okay, so that was the original show. And there were a lot of gender role issues back from the 70s, as you can imagine. And now a play was made recently. This was a case in the last, month or so, that was in New York. That's called 3 C's. That's downright depressing. It reverses all the gender roles. It basically critiques and comments on the original. And in a very long opinion by the New York court, they said it was a parody and it was allowed, so there was no infringement. So, okay. Then, as another example of the industries that creative works can go into, going from books to screenplay to movie, of course. You can have motion pictures in the theater, not just TV series or plays. And finally, to leave us on a Naked Gun note, is a well-known parody of, which unfortunately is not the best picture, of Demi Moore posing nude and pregnant on the cover of Vanity Fair. It was held to be an approved parody when Naked Gun 33 1/3, which was a movie that's just a complete parody of everything, used a parody of the cover of Vanity Fair to advertise the movie. So, in conclusion, creative works are in music, visual art, books, advertising, sculptures, movies, TV, phone books or not, stock photos, and they all have, and they're involved with trademark cases, including watches and stuffed animals and wallpaper and textiles and clothing and foam hats that you wear at games and trophy sellers. So creative works are everywhere, and there's a lot of important stuff you can learn at today's seminar to find out how they should be protected or not protected or worked around. So thank you.